Hello, everyone. Welcome to another one of our series of UI improvement demos. I'm sorry about my voice today. I'm a little sick, but I'm not doing a lot of talking today. I'll remind you to please change the quality of the video on YouTube. If you're watching at the default quality, it's not great for screen share, so please up that. If you have any questions, we're available on IRC, on the Foreman, on Twitter, or in the YouTube live chat. Today we'll have Dan talking about the Red Hat repository changes, Red Hat repository page changes. Dan?
All righty. Well, thanks for joining, everybody. Let me share my screen here. So we are going to be going over the new and improved Red Hat repositories page today, which also I'll talk a little bit about some of the technologies we're using in Katello and what kind of capabilities those are offering us. So yeah, feel free to ask questions and hop in at any time. I'm going to start by going over the existing page and some of the limitations and then how we are looking to overcome those with the current page. So this here is a view of the existing Red Hat repositories page. You can see we've got these tabs across the top. And then basically under each tab, we've got a list of products which we can drill into to see repository sets. And then further, we can drill into those repository sets to see the list of repositories in there and then either enable or disable those repositories. And so obviously there's some limitations here. There's not really great searching or filtering or pagination. And also just the interface is pretty lengthy, especially if you've got a lot of content. And so drilling into each of these and then waiting for each one to expand can take a lot of time. And so this was one of the, from my understanding, this is one of the pages that had the most requests for improvement. So this is where we're starting with the newer UI technologies in Katello. And so this is a view of the new and improved page. And before I dive into kind of the features and how it works, a couple things to note. This page can be viewed right now by turning on the experimental UI flag, which I think is just under the settings here. So if you go into that page, there's a flag you can turn on, which is to show the experimental UI. And then you'll have an additional link here on the sidebar under lab features. And you can click into this experimental UI, and then that'll bring you into this page with a little widget on the right, and you can select the different pages we're working on. And so this is obviously the Red Hat repositories page. So this page is written entirely in React. It's a new framework for Katello. And so we have tried to have some parity between the Foreman repository that's been using React for a while now, and Katello, which is new to React. So we've improved some things in Foreman as we've kind of introduced them into Katello, and then also tried to follow some of the patterns in Foreman as we use Katello. So React is a really popular newer front-end framework that allows us to write components and isolate the logic for the different views in a really modular way. Which makes writing advanced UI a lot easier and a lot easier to reason about. So this page gives us two different lists, the available repositories on the left and the enabled repositories on the right. And so the customer will, at a glance, be able to see which repositories are enabled and then interact with all of the available repositories. And so the concept here is you've got these available repositories on the left. You can click on one of these to expand the available options within that repository set. And then adding or enabling this repository is actually just going to pop it over to this right column over here. If we don't get an error, of course. Let me see if I can grab another one here. And so the idea is we just kind of can toggle these back and forth between the available repositories and the enabled repositories. once they're enabled, then they'll come over to this right side and show up in this list. And then if we want to disable them, we can just hit the disable icon here. So let me just refresh this page real quick. See if we can get this to work. This is a box I haven't used before, so hopefully this will work for us. It's pretty exciting to watch it hop over here. Nope, I guess not, but we'll see if we can get one of these disabled so you can get the concept. No, that's not working either. Ah, of course, a live demo, there we go. That one worked. So that's kind of the concept here. We've got the repository sets, like I mentioned. You can expand those. If there are repositories enabled, you can enable them and they'll pop over to this right side. And then disabling repositories is as easy as just clicking this button here. So that's a much more appealing view, obviously a lot simpler to work with. And then at the top here, we've got some searching and filtering capabilities. And so the search box has an autocomplete component, and so it can give us suggestions. And so right now I've got this available selected, which is going to give me autocomplete for the available repositories. And I can toggle this to enabled, so I'm searching through the enabled repositories or through both. And so I'm just going to leave it on available for now. So I'm going to select the content type, and then this will auto expand to give me some more options. And I'll select file here, and then go ahead and search, and then that will filter the available repository results to just those of the file content type. And so then I can again expand those, enable the repositories under that set, and then they'll pop right over to the right. So I think that's the gist of the page. I'm trying to think if I'm missing anything. There is another filter here, which is kind of similar to this content type, actually, that I just barely used. But you can select multiple content types to give you a little bit more flexibility on what you're searching through. And for the most part, this page is completed. There's a couple of things that are still have open PRs for, like the pagination and even the search field, actually. But we're anticipating merging this and bringing it out of the experimental labs page into actually replacing this Red Hat Repositories page, hopefully within the next few weeks. And so feel free to jump in and turn on that experimental UI flag and try out this page and have some experience with it. Do we have any questions so far?
Dan, could you zoom out a little bit just to show people how it would look when they're not completely zoomed in for demoing? So the names of the repositories are longer, and you could see more of that. Thanks.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point. I'm on a smaller screen here, but definitely if you've got some more screen space, we're taking advantage of that for sure. Let's see.
Hey guys. So for anyone who's watching and doesn't know, I'm the designer, and I guess I just want to point out that I've actually taken this design on the road and have been showing it to different customer groups, and I can tell you they all are extremely, extremely happy. The fact that we can actually filter and search, that they can come here and immediately see their enabled repositories has been a big hit so far. I actually received 0 negative feedback on the design thus far. Doesn't mean there won't be, but as of now, and I've shown it to, I want to say 10 plus large groups of people, that they've been pretty excited to see it.
Yeah, it definitely is a lot easier to work with. There was a question that was brought up in the chat about the search bar. It's a little bit narrow right now. There are some things that we're still working through to kind of polish it off. So the search bar will be a little bit bigger, I'm sure, to fit the queries that are coming in. And there's also some other features like bookmarking previous searches and stuff that will be integrated at some point. So still a little bit of cleanup to do as far as the styling.
We also have a question from Daniel on the YouTube live chat. Does this page actually add and remove repos to Catello products, or it's just UI?
I'm happy to give my 2 bits on it. Someone else may have some more information. So this will enable and disable repositories just like the existing Red Hat Repositories page does. It doesn't change which repositories are available based on your manifest. So there's nothing going on with your subscriptions or the manifest that you've loaded.
Another question. Any plans to enable syncing straight from this page?
I haven't seen any, but I'm never against it. And, you know, please email, reach out, do whatever. I'm happy to bring this to the attention of people who make big decisions. And it's something as well, if you guys have specific feedback, when I do go to meet with people, you know, I'm happy to say, hey, if we added this, would this be valuable to you, and kind of get more feedback on that if you're interested.
Thanks. We have a question.
Thomas? Oh yeah, go ahead.
You can read it.
From IRC. Yeah, Thomas McKay asked it's just wondering if this is using real data. It only sees the .NET and JBoss repos for RPMs. So it is real data. I'm not sure what the subscriptions are on this box, actually. I haven't used this box before, so there may be some things that are missing. But it is hitting like the real endpoints and everything.
Yeah, it's basically a manifest that contains a bunch of different products. And we do have another story in the future that we want to put popular repositories up top, so that you know, people can come straight here and they'll find rel and other popular things up top instead of having to search for them. Yeah, because all the stuff that's on here right now is not things that are you know, that used.
Yeah, and I think to echo on what Walden had pointed out, not just popular, but what makes sense, because I guess there are problems generated with people not being able to find the correct one. They think they have it, but they don't. So that's some of the feedback we got from customer service, essentially.
One of the other things that I'll talk about briefly is how we've been working pretty closely with the patternfly React group to create and expand the patternfly React library to have more components, so that we can use them in Foreman and in Catello and anywhere else that's using patternfly React. And so there have been some things that we're definitely still working through, and I think some of the components in patternfly React were built and then first used on this page and are newer, and so that's still being refined. But it's cool to see how that project is able to feed into some of these other projects, and so we've dedicated a lot of our efforts towards contributing there when it's possible.
We have a few more questions. What about bulk enabling for repos?
I don't know of any plans for that. I don't know exactly what the use case is. If it's like enabling all the repositories within a repository set at once, or some other use case. So maybe a little more. Maybe somebody knows about that, or maybe that's been discussed before. But
I vaguely remember hearing about it, but again, I think your original question was correct. Like, is it the top level or the bottom, like the internal levels? Because if it's the internal levels, it's actually additional clicks to bulk because you'd still have to select them all and then enable them. Right now, it's on click, right? But I think if for whatever reason you'd want to bulk an entire subset of one of these, like that, I think that's valuable feedback. I think that makes sense. And I guess I would rely on you guys, and I can ask some customers to see if that's a viable use case.
Well, some of the limitations we have with the page in general is still just the API and the CDN that's providing this data to us. And so you'll notice that each of these pages that hasn't, or each of these repository sets that hasn't been expanded before has to make a network request. And so we're working on doing some things to improve that. Like Walden mentioned, we're looking to have the most popular repository sets at the top and maybe even pre-fetch some of the data so that when a user clicks on it, it just expands immediately because we've pre-fetched the data. But we don't have the ability to fetch all of the data in one go and then just render the interface. And so there are some limitations in that way. But I could see, I guess what you're saying, maybe one use case would be like to enable all of these with one click or something.
Yeah, one of the comments we got is to filter out some repos and then enable in bulk.
Enable like everything that's left.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think one of the challenges there is, again, with this, not that it's not possible, but just having an interface that's clear, because when you're searching here, your search results are going to bring up the repository sets, and so maybe you could do something like expand the ones that you want and then enable all of the visible ones, or something kind of like that. It's kind of interesting concept. So I guess the result is I think it's possible. I don't think there are any plans for that at the time being.
So another one of the questions would be about grouping the repos somehow. Like have a group of rel repos, JBoss repos. Is there plans for that?
I don't think so. My understanding is that the searching and the filtering is designed to kind of provide you with that functionality. So I don't think we're going to be grouping them any differently than we are. But hopefully you'll be able to accomplish anything that you want with the search and the other filtering options.
One more question is about filtering on architectures.
Maybe Walden or someone else could comment to that. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, I don't know that we have that capability in the API currently to search on architecture, because whenever you expand, can you expand one of those?
Yeah, one of these. I was down here.
So like if you expand one, you see that little spinner there. That means that it's going to the CDN and getting the list of architectures for that repository set. And unfortunately, I don't think that we have a way to get all of the architectures for every repository set. Ideally, we would be able to query the CDN and get a JSON response that shows everything that's available, and then we could easily search on architecture. But we don't have that capability right now.
Dan, could you open another one of the repos? We were seeing Walden's icon instead of the spinner.
Yeah. Yep. So once this is pulled, then it's just cached in memory here, so it just pops open. But anytime you open a new one, then you've got this spinner while the data is fetched. And so just like Walden was saying, unfortunately, we can't fetch all the data for all the repos at once because the CDN just doesn't provide that data right now.
It seems we're getting more interest in grouping and bulk enable disable. But I don't see any more questions for now. Is there anything, Roxanne or Walden, you want to add?
I guess I just want to say thanks to everybody who's been working on this. I knew your design app is just definitely a departure from a lot of other things, and I appreciate all the work on trying to make it happen.
Okay, so I don't see any more questions now. You can also ask us later on the IRC channel, the Foreman, in the YouTube comments, or on Twitter. And it looks like that's it for today. Thank you for the presenters and everyone joining us. See you next time.